There is something about this sacred icon, something that sets it apart from almost every other image of the Virgin Mary in existence. It is a mystery that those who see it for the first time feel instantly, yet cannot quite name, and those who have looked upon it 1,000 times still feel that same power, as if it were the very first time. It is the gaze. In most depictions of Mary and the child, the mother is looking at her son. It is natural. It is what mothers do. But in the icon of Our Lady of Perpetual Help, Mary is not looking at the child. She is looking straight ahead. She is looking at you, the Christ child, visibly frightened, his sandal dangling as if it's about to fall, clutching his mother's hand with both of his. He is looking at the angels who show him the instruments of his coming death, the cross, the nails, the spear. He sees his future passion. He sees what awaits him on the hill of Calvary, and he takes refuge in Mary. But Mary, she does not look at him. She looks at you. It is as if she is saying, I have him in my arms, and I have you in my heart. I am not choosing between my son and my children. I am holding you both together. That look, fixed, serene, exhaustless, has brought comfort to millions of souls for over 500 years. Today, we are going to journey together through the history of this miraculous image. We will uncover the hidden meaning behind every stroke of the brush, and we will discover why a 19th century pope commanded that the entire world should come to know her. Before we dive into the history, let's speak about what we actually see. Because the icon of Perpetual Help is not just a painting, it is a window. It is the gospel in visual form. Every single detail holds a profound mystery. Every color, every gesture, every symbol was placed there with a divine purpose, to say something that human words simply cannot reach. The icon measures about 21 by 17 inches. It is small, surprisingly small when you consider the magnitude of its fame. It is painted on wood in the ancient Byzantine style by an unknown artist who likely labored in Crete between the 13th and 15th centuries. Pious tradition tells us that it was inspired by an original portrait painted by Saint Luke himself, the evangelist who, according to legend, knew Mary personally and captured her true likeness. While we cannot scientifically prove that tradition, there is something in the icon that transcends technique, something that generations of the faithful have recognized as a presence that no human hand could ever manufacture. The background is solid gold. In the world of Byzantine icons, gold is not a decoration, it is theology. The gold represents heaven, the glory of God, eternity itself. The space where the saints dwell has no landscape, no architecture. It only has light, and that light is gold. Mary and the child are wrapped in that celestial light, submerged in it, bathed by it, like those who inhabit a realm that does not belong to time, but to the eternal now. At the top, on either side of Mary's head, you see the Greek letters, MP Thai, an abbreviation for Mater Theou, the Mother of God. Not the Mother of Jesus, but the Mother of God. This is the most important theological claim in all of Mariology, proclaimed by the Council of Ephesus in the year 431. And there it is, in two simple characters on each side of her head, like a royal title engraved upon a crown. On the left side of the image, the Archangel Michael, identified by the letters OAPM, holds the spear and the sponge soaked in vinegar with veiled hands. On the right, the Archangel Gabriel, OAPG, holds the cross and the 4 nails. Notice that the angels do not touch these instruments directly. They hold them with a cloth, as one would carry a sacred vessel that must not be touched by bare hands, because those instruments, the very things that killed Christ, are simultaneously signs of unbearable pain and trophies of absolute victory. The cross that took his life is the same cross that saved the world. The nails that pierced him are the same nails that opened the gates of heaven. Tell me in the comments, do you have an image of Our Lady of Perpetual Help in your home? Did your parents or your grandparents keep one? Have you ever prayed before her in a moment of desperation? I love reading your stories, because every single testimony proves that her gaze continues to console us today, just as it did 5 centuries ago. Write your story down and come back. But the most striking detail of the icon, more than the angels, more than the gold, is the child. The infant Jesus looks at the angels, and what he sees terrifies him. He sees the spear that will pierce his side. He sees the sponge they will offer him to drink. He sees the cross where he will breathe his last. He sees the nails that will tear through his hands and feet, and he reacts exactly as any child would at the sight of such suffering. He is afraid, he trembles, he seeks his mother. The way his legs are twisted reveals the violence of his movement. He has turned sharply, like someone running away from something horrible. His cloak has bunched up from the sudden turn, and his right sandal has come loose. It hangs from his foot, held only by a single strap. About to fall to the ground, that sandal, a detail that might seem insignificant, is perhaps the most profound symbol in the entire icon. Devotional tradition sees it as the image of the sinner who is on the very verge of separating from Christ. The sandal hangs by a thread, just like a soul hangs by the thread of grace. One last link, a link that might be a simple prayer, a link that might be a devotion to Mary, a thread, thin, fragile, about to snap, but it does not break. Why? Because Mary is holding the child, and as long as Mary holds him, the sandal does not fall, and as long as the sandal does not fall, there is hope. The child's hands are tightly clutched to Mary's hand, leaning on her, sustained by her, like a son seeking the safety of his mother when the world becomes too terrifying to face alone. The hands of Jesus, resting in the hands of Mary. Tradition reads into this gesture the deepest theology of Marian devotion, that all graces flow through her, the hands of Christ, the same hands that will heal, that will bless, that will break the bread, that will be nailed to the wood, are resting upon the hands of his mother. It is as if Christ himself wanted us to know that what he gives through her. And then there is Mary. Mary wearing the blue mantle of motherhood over the red tunic of virgins. Mary with the star upon her veil, the star of the sea that guides sailors through the dark and stormy waters. Mary with the small mouth, because the ancient iconographers drew a small mouth to represent silence. The woman who kept all these things in her heart. Mary with the large eyes, because those eyes are not looking into a void. They are looking at the one who contemplates her. They are looking at you. The Virgin does not look at the child. She does not look at the angels. She does not even look at the suffering that is to come. She looks at the person standing before the icon, at the one who prays, at the one who weeps, at the one who cries out for help. She rises above the pain of her son and her own pain to soften her face, offering to whoever looks upon her a gaze full of welcome, eternity, and hope. It is in a single gaze, the entire mystery of Mary condensed into a small wooden panel, the mother who holds Christ and the Christian at the same time, she who never abandons her son and never forgets her children. She looks upon the world from the heights of heaven, with the very same eyes that gazed upon John at the foot of the cross, in that moment of agonizing love when Jesus spoke those eternal words, "Woman, behold your son." How did this sacred icon ever reach the city of Rome? The story is just as extraordinary, just as miraculous as the image itself. The oldest records we have place the origins of the icon on the island of Crete, a place where the Byzantine school of sacred art flourished, producing icons of a quality that rivaled even the majesty of Constantinople. At some point during the 15th century, though the exact year is lost to the mists of history, a merchant took the icon from a Cretan church. The softer versions of the story say he bought it, but more honest accounts suggest he stole it. Regardless of how it came into his possession, he hid it among his wares and set sail for Rome. But the sea is a harsh judge. During the voyage, a violent storm arose, a tempest so fierce it threatened to swallow the ship and every soul on board. Terrified, the merchant fell to his knees. He promised the Virgin that if she saved his life, he would place her image in a church for all to see. He survived. He reached the shores of Rome. But, like so many of us, once the danger passed, he failed to keep his promise. He took the icon home. He kept it for himself. But you cannot hide the Queen of Heaven forever. He fell gravely ill. As he lay on his deathbed, his conscience finally spoke. He called a Roman friend to his side and begged him to do what he had failed to do, to place the sacred icon in a church. The friend gave his word. He promised. But when the friend's wife saw the image, she fell under its spell. She wanted it for her own house. She told her husband, "An icon of such breathtaking beauty does not belong in a church. It belongs here, on our wall." And so, the image that was meant for an altar ended up hanging in a private home, hidden from the faithful. And that is when the Virgin Mother herself intervened. She did not appear to the greedy or the proud. She appeared to the friend's youngest daughter, a little girl only 6 years old. Mary said to her, "Go, tell your mother and your grandmother that Holy Mary of Perpetual Help wishes to be placed in a church between the Basilica of St. Mary Major and the Basilica of St. John Lateran." The child told her family what she had seen. Her mother ignored her, but the Virgin appeared again, and again, until finally, the family, perhaps moved by faith or perhaps trembling with holy fear, decided to obey. On March 27th, 1499, the sacred icon was solemnly placed in the Church of St. Matthew on the Via Merulana. It was exactly where the Virgin had requested, situated perfectly between those two great basilicas. The coincidence was too precise to be mere chance. Heaven had chosen the spot, and the spot was perfect. For 300 years, 3 full centuries, the icon of Our Lady of Perpetual Help was venerated at St. Matthew's. The miracles began to multiply. Devotion spread like a wildfire of grace. Romans flocked to that image like children flock to a mother, with the absolute confidence of those who know that those eyes, those holy eyes, never stop watching over them. The records of St. Matthew's, preserved by the Augustinian friars who guarded the image, document healings that church authorities examined with the strictest rigor of the time. There are accounts of the sick arriving on stretchers and walking out on their own 2 feet. The blind regained their sight after praying before the icon. Mothers brought their dying children and carried them home healthy and whole. These were not vague legends passed down by word of mouth. These were testimonies, signed by parish priests and confirmed by doctors who had previously given up all hope. The fame of the icon grew so great that in 1867, the Holy See ordered a golden crown to be added to the original painting. It was not a mere decoration. It was an official recognition of the miracles granted through the Virgin's intercession under this title. That crown, which was not part of the original Byzantine painting, is the Church's own signature upon the image. It says to the world, "We have examined, we have verified, and we confirm that this mother truly helps." But the path of the icon was not without its shadows. In 1798, the forces of Napoleon invaded Rome and destroyed the Church of St. Matthew. They reduced it to rubble. But before the walls could collapse, the Augustinian friars managed to spirit the icon away in secret. They hid it. They kept it in a private chapel. And there it remained, hidden from the world for nearly 70 years. 70 years. The image that the Virgin herself had commanded to be placed in a church vanished from public sight for 7 decades. Rome forgot her. The flame of devotion flickered and died. The icon that had comforted generations of the faithful gathered dust in a chapel that no one visited. But the Virgin does not forget. In 1855, the Redemptorist Fathers, the congregation founded by St. Alphonsus Liguori, built a new church on the very site where St. Matthew's had once stood. The Redemptorists were not just any order. St. Alphonsus had founded them in 1732 with a very specific mission: to evangelize the most abandoned, not the wealthy in the palaces, not the intellectuals in the universities, but the peasants, the poor, the forgotten souls, those whom no one else wanted to serve because they lived too far away, because they knew too little, or because they had no money to give. Alphonsus, a brilliant lawyer who walked away from the courts of Naples to become a priest, had seen the spiritual poverty of the simple people with his own eyes. He decided that someone had to go to them. He didn't wait for them to come to him. He went to them, and that going out became the heart of his congregation through missions, preaching in remote villages, and patient confession for sinners who hadn't stepped foot in a church for years. When the Redemptorists settled on the Via Merulana, they had no idea the icon existed. They didn't know it was hidden just a few blocks away in an Augustinian chapel. They only knew that this land, between St. Mary Major and St. John Lateran, was exactly where God wanted them to be. But Providence was at work. A young Redemptorist named Michael Marchi, who, as a boy, had served as an altar boy in the very chapel where the icon was hidden, recognized the image when an elderly Augustinian mentioned it in passing. Marchi remembered. He remembered those eyes. He remembered the gaze. He remembered the frightened Christ child clutching his mother's hand. And he understood that this icon could no longer remain in the shadows. The Redemptorists petitioned Pope Pius IX to grant them the image. The Holy Father examined the history. He verified that this was indeed the same image that had been venerated for 3 centuries at St. Matthew's. And then he spoke the 5 words that changed the history of devotion forever: make her known throughout the world. It was not a suggestion, it was a papal command. Pius IX did not say, put it in your church. He said, make her known throughout the world, the entire world. It was as if the Pope understood, with the intuition of a saint, that this image was not just for Rome or even for Italy. It was for all of humanity. On April 26, 1866, the sacred icon was solemnly enthroned in the Redemptorist Church of St. Alphonsus on the Via Merulana, exactly where St. Matthew's had been, exactly between St. Mary Major and St. John Lateran. The Virgin had returned to the place she had chosen 400 years earlier, and this time, with the Redemptorists as her guardians, and the command of a pope as the wind in her sails, her image would reach the very ends of the earth. The Redemptorists obeyed, and the miraculous speed with which this sacred icon spread across the globe is, without question, one of the most stunning devotional phenomena in the modern history of the Church. In less than 50 years, the image of Our Lady of Perpetual Help was enshrined in churches across all 5 continents. The Redemptorist Fathers carried her throughout Latin America, where the devotion exploded with a spiritual force that defied all expectations, to Brazil, to Colombia, to Mexico, to Argentina, to Peru, to the Philippines, to India, to Africa. Wherever a Redemptorist set foot, there was the sacred icon, and wherever the icon arrived, a community of the faithful was born, souls who gathered week after week to stand before those eyes. The gaze that never ceases to watch over us. Across Latin America, this devotion took root with a profound depth that transformed the spiritual landscape of entire nations. In Brazil, Where the Redemptorists arrived at the end of the 19th century, the image of Our Lady of Perpetual Help became a staple of the Catholic home. Grandmothers kept her image in the place of honor in the living room, usually right next to the crucifix and the rosary. Generations of children grew up under her watchful care, and even for those who later wandered far from the practice of the faith, the gaze of those eyes, so firm, so maternal, so utterly serene, remained etched into their memories, like a spiritual seal that cannot be forgotten, even if one tries to forget. In the great cathedrals and humble chapels alike, the weekly novena to Our Lady of Perpetual Help became one of the most crowded and fervent celebrations of parish life. It spread with the speed of a holy fire through dry grass. And this did not happen because the Redemptorists were master advertisers. No, it happened because the sacred icon speaks for itself. You only need to look at it once, to see those eyes, to see the frightened Christ child, to see the loose sandal hanging by a thread, and you feel something that requires no theological degree to understand. You feel that this mother helps. You feel that this succor is real. You feel, even if you cannot find the words, that those eyes do not lie. The feast of Our Lady of Perpetual Help is celebrated on June 27th, but the devotion does not wait for a calendar date. It lives every single week, in the form of the Perpetual Novena, which is the most characteristic way this title is honored. Now, the Perpetual Novena, not to be confused with a standard 9-day prayer, is a weekly practice. Every week, on a fixed day, usually Wednesday or Saturday, depending on the parish, the faithful gather before the sacred icon for a liturgy that is simple in structure, yet profoundly effective. It begins with a hymn, usually the traditional "O Mother of Perpetual Help," a melody that millions of Catholics know by heart. Then comes the exposition of the image, or the Most Blessed Sacrament, followed by a brief scriptural reading and a reflection, focusing on the life of Mary or the mystical symbolism of the icon. Then come the petitions, the most intense moment of all, when the faithful present their deepest intentions out loud or in the silence of their hearts, for the sick, for those who suffer, for marriages in crisis, for the children who have turned away from God. It concludes with a blessing and a final song of praise. This novena has no end. It does not last 9 weeks or 9 months. It lasts a lifetime. Every week the devotee returns. Every week they kneel before the same image. Every week they present the same intentions, or perhaps new ones, because life never stops producing needs. And every week those eyes look back with the same unchanging tenderness they showed the very first time. There is something in this weekly repetition that transforms the soul. It is not monotony, it is fidelity. It is like the beating of a heart, repeating the same gesture millions of times without tiring. The Perpetual Novena is the heartbeat of Marian devotion, constant, rhythmic, vital. Those who practice it for years discover a secret that the occasional prayer can never know, that sustained prayer changes the one who prays, long before it changes the thing being asked for. This is the most attended weekly novena in the Catholic Church. More than the Sacred Heart, more than the miraculous medal, more than any other. But why? What is it about this image that draws us with such irresistible force? The answer is found in the name itself, Perpetual Help, not occasional help, not sometimes help when I happen to remember, not help only when the situation is dire and there is no other remedy, but perpetual, constant, uninterrupted, without a schedule, without a calendar, without prerequisites or conditions. It is the help that never runs dry, that never grows weary, that never says, "Come back tomorrow," because Mary never closes her eyes. The gaze of the icon is the proof. Those eyes are open, always looking at you, always waiting for you to ask, always. Perpetual Help is perhaps the most consoling title of Mary in existence because it contains a promise in its very name. It does not say Virgin of Hope, which points to the future. It does not say Virgin of Consolation, which implies a pain that has already occurred. It says help, immediate, active, concrete, right now. And it says perpetual, without end, without pause, without interruption. The name itself is the prayer. Mary, perpetual help, aid that never ceases, a presence that never withdraws, the gaze that never turns away. What does all of this mean for the person watching this screen right now? Perhaps you have a heavy heart. Perhaps you are facing a problem that seems to have no solution. Perhaps your soul feels dry and your prayers feel exhausted. It means there are eyes looking at you right now, not tomorrow, now. The same eyes that watched over the merchant who stole the icon, the same eyes that looked upon the 6-year-old girl and asked her to take the image to a church, the same eyes that watched over the people of Rome for 300 years in San Mateo, the same eyes that watched through the darkness of a hidden chapel for 70 years without ever losing their luster. Those eyes see you, and they do not demand perfection. They do not demand an existing state of holiness. They ask for nothing except that you allow yourself to be watched, that you draw near to the icon, or the image you have in your home, or the small card in your wallet, or simply the memory in your heart, and that you say what those who have run out of words say. Mother of perpetual help, help me. Just 3 words. Help me. Not teach me, not enlighten me, not even give me strength, but help me in the same way you help a man who is drowning, or someone who has fallen, or someone who simply cannot go on. It is the prayer of someone who has hit rock bottom, only to discover that at the bottom there is a hand holding them up, the same hand that holds the frightened Christ child in the icon, the same hand that catches the loose sandal as it is about to fall, the same hand that holds the sinner hanging by a thread, the last thread, and ensures they do not fall because Mary is holding them. If you could step inside the church of St. Alphonsus in Rome today, the church the Redemptorists built upon the ruins of San Mateo, you would find, high above the main altar, the original icon. It is small, it is ancient. The golden light of the celestial background, though darkened by the passage of 5 centuries, still radiates with a divine brilliance. Those ancient Greek letters, etched by hands long turned to dust, remain stark and legible to this day. The holy archangels, Michael and Gabriel, they are still there, solemnly holding the instruments of the sacred passion before the eyes of the King of Kings. And the Christ child, he is still startled, still clinging with all his might to the hand of his mother, his small sandal still dangling, held by a single fragile thread, just as it has been for generations. And then there is Mary, still looking directly at you. 500 years. Think of the weight of that time. More than 500 years of that unwavering gaze. And she has not blinked, not once. Our Lady of Perpetual Help, Mother of God, and our Mother, you who sustain the divine child and the humble devotee with that same sacred hand, we implore you, succor us. Help those who look up toward your image through a veil of bitter pain, finding no earthly comfort. Help those whose souls are hanging by a thread, just like the sandal of the infant Jesus, those who feel they are on the very brink of falling into the abyss. Help those who have silenced their prayers, those who have stopped crying out because they believe the heavens are deaf to their sorrow. Reach out to them, O Mother, and teach them that your eyes have never closed, not for a single second. Succor those who are desperate for a miracle, and those who have been so crushed by life that they no longer dare to ask for one. Reach out to the broken marriages, to the lost children wandering in the darkness of the world, to the sick for whom medicine offers no hope, And to those who have lost the light of faith and no longer know how to find the path home, succor us all, perpetually, without pause, without end, without ever growing weary of our weakness. Look upon us with those eyes that never blink, hold us with that hand that never lets go. Wrap us in that love that can never be exhausted, because that love is the perfect reflection of the heart of your Son, a love that is eternal. Mother of perpetual help, pray for us. Amen.